Watermelon? You probably think of it as a summer treat, a sweet snack. Mostly water, not much else going on. Maybe even feel a little guilty eating it because of the sugar. But here's what the research says for people over 40. Watermelon is quietly one of the most strategically useful foods you can eat. It targets 3 things that quietly deteriorate after 40: cardiovascular health, skin quality, and cellular hydration. And it does it through compounds that are genuinely hard to get from other sources. Today, we're going to go organ by organ, system by system, and tell you exactly what happens inside your body when you eat watermelon regularly. And we'll end with the one question people always ask: is the sugar actually a problem? Stay for that answer. It might surprise you. Let's go. Chapter 1. Why your body changes after 40 and why food becomes more important. After 40, a cluster of biological shifts begin to accelerate. None of them are dramatic on their own, but together they change what your body needs from food. Collagen production starts declining at roughly 1% per year from your mid-20s, but the visible effects become pronounced in your 40s. Skin becomes less elastic, slower to heal, drier. Blood vessel walls gradually lose flexibility, making arterial stiffness one of the biggest silent risk factors for cardiovascular disease. In this age group, cellular hydration becomes less efficient. Your body's ability to retain and use water at the intracellular level decreases, which is why people in their 40s and 50s often feel chronically fatigued, even when they're drinking enough water. And chronic low-grade inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging, begins to creep upward, quietly driving risk for heart disease, metabolic dysfunction, and accelerated skin aging. These are the exact systems that watermelon, specifically, addresses. Through a compound most people have never heard of, lycopene, and an amino acid called L-citrulline. We'll cover both in detail. But first, let's talk about your heart. Chapter 2. What watermelon does to your heart and blood pressure. Lead with the mechanism. Make the science feel accessible, not academic. Watermelon is the richest known dietary source of L-citrulline, an amino acid your body converts into L-arginine, which is a direct precursor to nitric oxide. If you've heard the term nitric oxide in the context of heart, health, or blood pressure, here's why it matters. Nitric oxide signals the smooth muscle lining your blood vessels to relax and dilate. This reduces resistance in the arteries, which lowers blood pressure naturally, gradually, and without side effects. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Hypertension found that watermelon extract supplementation measurably reduced both systolic and diastolic blood pressure in participants with prehypertension, particularly in cold stress conditions that typically spike blood pressure. The mechanism was L-citrulline converting to nitric oxide. 2 cups of fresh watermelon, a completely realistic daily portion, provides approximately 150 to 200 milligrams of L-citrulline. For context, athletes use concentrated citrulline supplements at 3 to 6 grams for performance benefits. Watermelon alone won't replace medication for hypertension, but as a consistent dietary input, it moves the needle in the right direction. Lycopene does a second job here. This carotenoid, the pigment that makes watermelon red, is a potent antioxidant that's been associated in multiple observational studies with reduced LDL oxidation. Oxidized LDL is what embeds in arterial walls and triggers plaque formation. Lycopene essentially protects the cholesterol in your blood from being converted into the dangerous form. Watermelon, interestingly, contains higher bioavailable lycopene than tomatoes because it's eaten raw, without the heat that destroys some of lycopene's active forms. Chapter 3. What watermelon does to your skin after 40s. Skin aging after 40 has 2 main drivers: UV-induced damage and collagen degradation. Watermelon addresses both in different ways. Lycopene has a well-established photoprotective effect. It doesn't replace sunscreen, let's be clear about that, but it works at the cellular level, neutralizing reactive oxygen species that are generated when UV light hits skin cells. Think of it as internal sun protection that runs 24 hours a day. Regular lycopene intake has been associated in clinical studies with reduced UV-induced erythema, which is the redness and cellular damage that precedes deeper skin aging. The second mechanism is hydration. Watermelon is 92% water by weight, but it's not just the water content that matters. It contains natural electrolytes, including potassium and magnesium, which are critical for maintaining the osmotic balance that keeps water inside skin cells, rather than in the interstitial space. This is what gives skin the plump, hydrated appearance that diminishes in dehydrated skin, and it's also what supports the production environment for collagen synthesis. Vitamin C, which watermelon contains in modest but consistent amounts, is a required cofactor for collagen synthesis. Your body cannot produce collagen without it. It also works synergistically with lycopene. Both are antioxidants that suppress the inflammatory signals that activate enzymes, called matrix metalloproteinases, or MMPs, the enzymes responsible for breaking down existing collagen. So watermelon slows collagen destruction while supporting the conditions for collagen production. That's a genuine two-way benefit for skin over 40. Chapter 4. Hydration. Why water alone isn't always enough. Here's something most people over 40 don't know. Thirst sensation declines with age. The hypothalamic response that normally triggers the feeling of thirst becomes blunted, meaning older adults are statistically at higher risk of chronic mild dehydration, even when they feel fine. And plain water, while essential, doesn't address electrolyte balance. On its own, potassium in particular is chronically underconsumed in most modern diets globally, and it's critical for fluid regulation, nerve function, and blood pressure modulation. Watermelon delivers approximately 170 milligrams of potassium per 100 grams of fruit, combined with its water content and natural sugars, which aid electrolyte absorption in the gut. Watermelon functions as a whole food rehydration source for anyone who exercises and sweats, even light exercise, like walking in a warm climate. Watermelon post-exercise has been studied specifically for recovery. A study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found that athletes who consumed watermelon juice before exercise reported reduced muscle soreness 24 hours later, attributed to L-citrulline improving blood flow and waste clearance in muscles. If you're in a warm climate, South Asia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, where heat-related dehydration is genuinely a daily consideration for people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, watermelon is one of the most practical and affordable functional foods available. Chapter 5. The sugar question. Is watermelon actually okay for blood sugar? This is the one. Everyone over 40 who is even slightly concerned about blood sugar, insulin resistance, or type 2 diabetes risk has heard that watermelon has a high glycemic index and hesitates. Here's the nuance that most people miss. Glycemic index and glycemic load are not the same thing. Yes, watermelon has a high glycemic index, around 72 to 76, which sounds alarming, but glycemic index measures the blood sugar response per gram of carbohydrate eaten in isolation in a fasted state. It doesn't reflect real-world eating. Glycemic load accounts for actual carbohydrate quantity in a normal serving. A 2-cup serving of watermelon contains only about 11 to 12 grams of net carbohydrates because most of its weight is water. Its glycemic load is around 5, which is classified as low. For reference, a glycemic load below 10 is considered low impact on blood sugar. When eaten as part of a meal with protein, fat, or fiber, that response is further blunted. So for the vast majority of people, including those managing mild insulin resistance, a normal portion of watermelon does not create a blood sugar crisis. The exception would be people managing active type 2 diabetes, who are tracking carbohydrates closely, and even then, portion size and meal composition are the variables, not watermelon specifically. Bottom line, don't let glycemic index mythology keep you away from one of the most hydrating, anti-inflammatory, heart-supportive fruits available. Watermelon isn't a superfood in the marketing sense. It's not exotic, it's not expensive, it doesn't come in a supplement capsule. It's just a fruit that happens to be stacked with compounds that become increasingly relevant. After 40, L-citrulline for blood vessel health, lycopene for antioxidant and photoprotection, natural electrolytes for real cellular hydration, and vitamin C for collagen support. 2 cups a day, fresh, not juice, on its own as a snack, or with a little feta and mint. If you want to feel like you're eating at a Mediterranean cafe, if you found this useful, subscribe. We publish evidence-based content on nutrition and longevity for the 40-plus audience every week. And tell me in the comments, are you a watermelon person? Do you eat it regularly, or has the sugar concern kept you away? I genuinely read every reply. See you in the next one.